unlikely NBA Finals matchups you would actually want to see. Subscribe to this channel for more videos. First up is Nuggets vs Sixers. Embiid and Jokic are no strangers to being pitted against one another. They are the primary headliners in the best big man discussion. Embiid has held what seems to be an appreciable advantage when he's at his peak, but limited availability coupled with Jokic's playmaking, inside-out scoring, and profound impact on the Nuggets offense has turned this into a neck-and-neck affair. This season specifically belongs to Jokic. He's played nearly 800 more minutes and kept the Nuggets in play for a top 2 finish in the West. Embiid's Sixers, by comparison, have made competing in the East look hard. That context goes out the window in a best-of-7 series. A fully available and engaged Embiid is one of the league's 2 or 3 most impactful defenders, and there's an unstoppable force marries and movable object dominance to his offense when it's not compromised by the lineups in which he plays. Would a finals matchup settle this argument once and for all? Not quite, but championship bragging rights last forever. Nuggets head coach Mike Malone hasn't given Michael Porter Jr. a consistent run this season. Higher stakes games aren't convenient teaching moments, particularly if Denver makes it all the way to the finals. But the size and length of Philly's 5 best players is terrifying. Murray is at risk of getting neutralized, in which case the Nuggets would more than ever need another shot creator who can exist within a larger flow of the offense. MPJ would, as ever, be their best option. Next up is Lakers vs Heat. Maybe too much time has passed since LeBron James left South Florida, but the idea of him squaring off against a regenerated version of the team he spurned ranks pretty high on the list. Ever the portrait of serenity, Riley was clearly rattled by James' decision to leave Miami in 2014. My beautiful plan all of a sudden came crashing down, he told ESPN. That team in 10 years could have won 5 or 6 championships, but I get it. This reaction is hardly dripping with resentment. He even said James made the right decision by returning to Cleveland, and even more time has passed since. But you just know Riley would extract a special pleasure in winning a title at James' expense barely 6 years after their dissolution. And for James' part, he'd probably enjoy chasing his 4th ring as the favorite, with Riley on the opposite side. Other elements of intrigue push this matchup over the edge. Give us Anthony Davis vs Bam Adebayo. Jimmy Butler is once upon a time, like every other superstar, a potential Lakers free agent target, and he apparently has always wanted to don purple and gold. And let us not forget that Jay Crowder, now of the Heat, played with James in Cleveland for a minute and seemed happy to get out. And definitely don't forget that Andre Iguodala is also in Miami. Rumor has it he and James have a little bit of history. Next up is Celtics vs Mavericks. Luka Doncic and Jason Tatum are the main attractions of said meeting. 2 under 23 superstars leading their teams within at least 4 victories of a title would be awesome to watch. Boston vs Dallas would also be a showdown of the 2 next teams up. The Celtics have been in line to run the East since before LeBron James left it. They're ready now, and they have Gordon Hayward and Kemba Walker, but 2 of their best players remain unfathomably young. Tatum doesn't turn 23 until next March, and Jaylen Brown will be just 24 in October. Insofar as the West has a next team up, the Mavericks are battling the Nuggets and Pelicans for the future position role. They're ahead of the curve in that they have the best player of the 3. Still, a Boston-Dallas matchup could be a precursor to many more over the next decade plus. Sneaking into the finals would end up meaning much more to the Mavericks. They'll be heavy underdogs in at least 2 series beforehand, and a potential Cinderella run would presumably be a feat of validation for their investment in Kristaps Porzingis. What's more, their core isn't as set in stone. They have a path to opening cap space this offseason or, more importantly, next summer. A finals berth and possible victory would go a long way with pitching other stars in 2021, including Giannis. Next up is Rockets vs Sixers. The Rockets have leaned all the way into nanoball. PJ Tucker is their de facto center, they spread the floor, and they attack like hell when Russell Westbrook is on the court. The Sixers are the Rockets' opposite. Their shooting guard Josh Richardson is taller than Houston's center, and they don't spread the floor, they junk it up. They'll run when they can, but they mostly overwhelm with size and physicality. Would Philly overpower Houston? Would the Rockets mismatch the Sixers into oblivion? Does Ben Simmons guard Westbrook or James Harden, or split the time between the 2? Oh, speaking of which, what's the over-under on how long it takes Embiid and Westbrook to get into it again? 2 games, 1 game, 1 quarter? Either way, it doesn't matter. You just know Embiid or Westbrook will wave goodbye to the other team if his team wins. For anyone who likes to be punched in the feels during the finals, this hypothetical has you covered. Covington is the homegrown impact player the Sixers sacrificed for a superstar who left them / they let walk away. Seeing the 2 sides meet in the finals would be surreal, and Robert Covington not only potentially winning a title first, but at Philly's expense would be extra poetic. And last up is Heat vs Thunder. Pretty much nobody billed the Heat as title contenders after acquiring Jimmy Butler. Perception of his services sourced following an ugly breakup with the Minnesota Timberwolves and play stay with the Sixers. How much better does he actually make Miami was the more prevalent question. It turns out a lot better. The pressure he puts on the rim powers their offense, even though he's apparently no longer allowed to make jumpers, and he's led some truly questionable lineups into league average or better defensive standing. The Thunder are the even more unlucky participant. They dealt away their two best players last summer under the pretext they'd eventually cannonball into some sort of rebuild. That rebuild never came. They instead kept Danilo Gallinari and Chris Paul and have contended for a top 4 seed in the West. Their 9-17 record against squads above 500 is troubling, but they're also 17-5 with a top 4 offense and a top 10 defense since January 18th. Both teams would at once be sticking it to the league at large, as well as certain players, by making the finals into the first place. Miami's appearance and potential victory would be one hell of a recruiting tool if Giannis and Victor Oladipo hit free agency in 2021. Beating 2 previous trade targets to get to a title would be fairly funny. Oklahoma City's cameo would be a middle finger to no fewer than 6 other Western Conference playoff teams. And just imagine how George and Westbrook would feel if the Thunder make and win the finals before them. That's it for today's Sports Mafia video. Thank you for watching. If you like this video and want to see more Sports Mafia content, click the circle subscribe button so you never miss a single video. Hope you enjoyed.